What the actual fuck? The robber says, looking at me in astonishment, right before I grab his wrist, the one holding the gun, and apply some not-so-gentle pressure. Ah! The robber shouts out, beginning to drop the gun. Yeah, I don't think you'll be needing that anymore, I said, smiling under my mask. This was going far better than I expected it. Suddenly, the moron hauls off and tries to headbutt me. The solid clank as his skull makes contact with my mask is somewhat satisfying as he reels back in pain. "Oh, son of a bitch!" he shouts. "Really, guy? My mask can stop a bullet, but you thought your head was going to do the trick. You're not very bright, are you?" "Never mind, of course you're not. You're robbing a convenience store," I say as a swirl of silver liquid moves from my wrist, wrapping around his, the one that had the gun in it, forming a circular ring around it, with two large, short, sharp points on it, connected to my heavy metallic glove. With a swift jerk, I yank to the side and downwards, slamming both our wrists into the counter, the spikes protruding from the ring on his wrist, jamming into it. I focus, creating upward barbs after the spikes jab in, so that it pins him there. "Sorry, I hope I'm not pinning you down," I said, as my wrist detaches from his little restraint. "But I'd really hate for you to miss your appointment with the police." "Who the fuck are you? What the hell is this?" he says, sporadically trying to pull his arm free, and having absolutely no luck. And he wasn't going to. "Holy shit, dude," Fred says from behind the counter. It's at that point I begin to hear some yelling outside of the store, and I look out the window to see two other guys, both making their way towards the store with guns drawn. Apparently he had friends with him. Damn it, wasn't expecting more than one. I thought to myself, this is not a good situation. I look over to Fred as he's still spellbound staring at the guy I have pinned to the counter. I raise my hands, and as I do, the metal forming my gloves, and even the metal from my shoes, liquefies, streaming into a circular pattern in the air. I use it to form a large circular shield, very thin but with some grips on the back for someone to hold it with their hands. If 2 centimeters is enough to stop bullets, as long as it isn't actually attached to someone's body, it should be more than enough to protect them. The shield was about 4 foot wide. Just had to hope that was enough. As the shield finishes forming, I grab it from air, tossing it behind the counter to Fred. "Fred, buddy, I'm gonna need you to do me a favor. Get in the corner, back against the wall, and hold that out in front of you. And just stay like that until otherwise notified. Things are about to get ugly," I said, as Fred looked towards the front door, seeing the 2 other guys starting to come in. He hastily held up the shield and started backing away, just as I told him to. The 2 other guys finally make it inside. Immediately they start raising their guns. I pull the long, slender chain from my back. All it takes is a thought and it lashes out, first wrapping around one of the guns that the guy has. I quickly whip it out of his hand, while rushing forward. I give the guy still holding his gun a kick backwards. They were completely surprised by the speed that I ran on them. They never saw it coming. The guy kicked flies backwards, shattering through the glass window-style door, falling onto the pavement. I give another quick thought to the chain in my hand. Suddenly it wraps around him like a snake. I grab hold of it, whipping him around and slamming it into the counter. He moans a bit before hitting the ground. I turn my attention to the guy on the ground outside. At this point he started pulling his gun again. At this point, I'm running low on liquid steel. I've already used so much of it, giving Fred a shield, pinning the first robber, chaining the second one. No other choice, I have to pull from my armor. I had made some leg and arm guards, something to protect my limbs, but I needed to restrain this guy before he started firing off again. This armor doesn't cover everything, so I focused, turning the liquid metal armor pad on my right arm back into a liquid. I don't even give it a form, I just send it flying straight at him. The liquid metal hits him right in the face, wrapping around his head. Luckily, in the moment, he completely forgets about shooting his gun, becoming more concerned with this strange liquid wrapping around his face, and begins to start trying to pull it off, which is an entirely futile endeavor. I harden the liquid while it's still on his head, and then pull it toward me. Suddenly, from his seated position, he starts feeling his head being pulled in my direction rapidly, and his body's just along for the ride. I grab him by the dome as he slides up to me. With a shimmer of the liquid on his head, a few long spikes start to protrude from it, and with just a bit more focus, I send them flying straight down into the pavement, pinning his head there, nice and comfy, and probably sending him for quite a loop. Once again, I gave it barbs so it wouldn't be able to get pulled out. After a moment of feeling dazed, he started trying to pick himself up, futilely pulling against the concrete, but his head wasn't going anywhere. He was stuck. I reached down, pulling the gun out of his hand and throwing it to the side, before remembering that I'm not wearing gloves anymore. I used them to make a shield. So I tear off that part of his shirt, and then go wipe my fingerprints off his gun. Luckily, I'd noticed that there's a camera outside, so they won't be able to claim that the gun wasn't his, even if I wipe the prints off of it. It's in clear view of the camera. I stuff the piece of cloth in my pocket and start walking back inside, stepping in through the broken door. The guy wrapped in chains, still struggling as if he's going to get free, and the guy pinned to the counter, still helplessly trying to pull away, hoping he might break the bond, I suppose. Not gonna happen. "Hey Fred, you okay?" I shout, seeing Fred in the corner, cowering behind a shield. "Holy fuck, dude! Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine, man," I replied. "Dude, are you out of your mind?" Fred said, as he poked his head above the shield I made for him. "No, dude, I already told you. I'm a superhero. Hey, you wouldn't happen to have any zip ties around, would you?" Yeah, I think so," Fred said, starting to stand up from his corner. "Yeah, I'm gonna need those. And I'm also gonna need that shield back," I said, raising my hand as the shield begins to break down into its liquid form, flowing back to me. I spent a few minutes at the store, grabbing some zip ties from Fred and using them to restrain our unwelcome guests, and then recollecting the liquid steel. I definitely couldn't afford to leave it here. I don't have a big enough supply at this point. There's no way I can afford to lose even a single drop of this stuff. After zip-tying all of the robbers and setting them neatly in the store, I began to hear the police sirens in the distance, heading in our direction. "Okay, Fred, looks like the police are almost here, and vigilantism isn't exactly shined upon. So I'm gonna have to get out of here, Fred. You take care of yourself, buddy," I said, beginning to make my way out the door. "Dude," Fred said, as I started to leave, "you seriously need to come up with a name. And I'm sorry for doubting that you are a superhero, but you are definitely legit," Fred said, looking at the three guys tied up in this convenience store. "No worries, Fred. I don't think I'm going to be able to come back here for a little while. The cops might be waiting for me. But this was a nice practice run. It was nice knowing you, Fred. Maybe once things settle down a bit, I'll be back by. Well, for the moment, I'll catch you later.